Good evening and welcome to Mr. Piggy Talks. And perhaps I should explain what we are going to be doing in these series of YouTube videos. It's going to be a series of light-hearted and hopefully humorous, hopefully you will laugh at my jokes, light-hearted talks about various aspects of modelling. And I'm obviously a bit of a giveaway. One of the principal topics will be Airfix. But not just Airfix, not exclusively Airfix, lots of other manufacturers we will consider. Of course, there's a plethora of subjects in Airfix to think about. We'll also be delving into the world of model railways, or particularly manufacturers like Hornby, Lima, Bachmann, Mainline, and of course Airfix, who did produce their own model railways in the mid to late 70s and early 80s. So there'll be a whole range of subjects for us to look at and think about, and we'll also be looking at other aspects too, which will be the 1250 scale model ships. Thinking there of the German manufacturers Albatross and Navis Neptune, and a whole load of others too that's just too short time now to mention. So we'll be looking at the models, the history of the models, the model manufacturers, the subjects obviously that they produce models of, and hopefully some interesting background history and facts regarding the subjects themselves. So it will be hopefully short videos, light-hearted, lots of discussion points. Of course, everyone is more than welcome to partake in watching the videos, of course, because they're public, and also in posting their comments, questions, or requests for further videos on like-minded subjects. So that's really the background to this. This is, of course, the pilot episode. So there'll be lots of comments, I'm sure, from you as viewers as to what do you think of the subject, etc. And also where we go from here. We'll be very much guided by you as viewers as to where you want to take it. But I'll give you a background, really, of the kind of things we'll be thinking about. So I thought today, rather than droning on too much about aims and objectives and background as to what we're going to do, let's delve into a first subject matter, a subject which is dear to my own heart, which is the Airfix SAM-2 missile kit. And here it is. I hear you all gasping with shock and awe and surprise that I have in my hands here. Perhaps I should be holding it with protective gloves, because it is really an historical artifact, an irreplaceable item. I'll explain why in just a moment. But this is an extremely rare kit. And for those of you in the know with Airfix, you'll know that this is, if you like, called the missing link. This is the one that has defied search and inquiry as to what happened to the original tooling, because it has long since disappeared. And I believe it only was issued, this is the first one. I knew, obviously, a bit of a giveaway. On the side of the box, you won't be able to see from there, but it's 1973. I believe it appeared in later editions of Airfix catalogues, certainly 1975, 76. But it disappeared after that, and nobody really knows what's happened to the tooling. That's a great pity for a number of reasons, I should say. Firstly, the subject matter of the kit. Well, it's really, to use a modern phrase, it's really bang on, because it's very topical, it's exciting. Missiles, of course, are very exciting. At the time it was produced, of course, it was extremely topical, because this model provides decals and a paint scheme for an Egyptian Army or Air Force missile system. And of course that coincided 1983 in October of that year, the Yom Kippur War. And of course, even around that time too, in Vietnam, SAM-2s were aplenty in Vietnam, bringing down the likes of B-52s and all sorts of other planes with tremendous success. So it was a very good subject to pick at the time, not covered really by other manufacturers. So it's a really good subject matter. The kit itself, really, we don't have the facilities here today to show you much of the kit, but the tooling is absolutely superb. This is a pristine example, I should say. They're very rare to find. I say rare, of course, searches on YouTube will generally produce them, but there aren't many of them, and they usually pass exchange hands now for anything up to £75 plus. This is a very rare example, but the tooling and the model itself is very crisp. There are lots of parts you can see in there. It's superbly detailed. You have the launcher, the trailer, the tractor vehicle, the truck that pulls it, and of course the deadly missile itself. So it's a particularly fine kit and subject matter, and very much well sought after. And those of you who are old enough to remember it coming out in 1973 may well recall the huge excitement it generated. The only similar missile kit that Airfix did was here on my desk. I don't know if you can see it, but I can certainly move it towards you. Is the much earlier model of the Bristol Bloodhound. This was, if you like, the RAF version of the Sam 2. Probably nowhere near as good. That's obviously a subject for another day, and I'm sure lots of you have your own expert opinions and views on that. But the Bloodhound missile was, of course, very much the RAF's equivalent of the Sam 2, and the guided missile in the 1960s and 70s was very much the in thing, as indeed it is today, isn't it? With Patriot missiles, Rapiers, you name it, and a whole plethora of new generation of SAM missiles. Now, I should say also that I haven't touched on the great mystery, the great conspiracy theory that surrounds the SAM 2 missile Airfix kit, because it has sadly disappeared, vanished. It looks like it will never reappear again. So those of you who've got one of these, and I think on various social media sites, people say, if you have one, do I build or do I keep? Well, I tell you what, I'm very much minded to keep mine. I do have 3 of them. They are obtained at quite considerable costs, I should say. And you'd have to be quite brave and have very deep pockets, I think, to sort of say, well, I'll build one, because actually the unbuilt ones, of course, are the more valuable incarnations of them. But what happened really? Why is it? How on earth could this have gone missing? Now, there were a couple of theories to this as to what happened to the tooling, which disappeared in 1981. When Airfix were taken over by Hornby in 2006, there was a full review of all the toolings that they were taking over. Unsurprisingly, of course, because they bought the company. And in that audit, well, guess what? What stood out as missing, obviously there are a number of ones that are missing, but the one that was really, really sort of heartbreaking to see that it's definitely confirmed it's gone forever, is the Sam 2 kit. And of course it had disappeared long before that. It had disappeared, we believe, in 1981. Now in 1981, as Airfix fans, I'm sure there are many Airfix fans watching this, in 1981 Airfix sadly went bust. It went bust in some style, an early victim of the recession which bit Britain in the early Margaret Thatcher years, those of you old enough to remember them, and British industry was suffering terribly. Toy manufacturers, quite a few of them went bust. Dinky Toys, to name another very famous one. So Airfix, I'm afraid, disappeared. Well, entirely disappeared. They were bought up by Palitoy, who took over the production. The factory, of course, in Wandsworth at Haldane Place was shut, and en masse, all the tools were shipped over the channel to a town in northeastern France called Trun, very near to Calais. And of course, that was actually where Hella had their production facility. The toolings were taken stage by stage, I understand, in lorries or vans, as and when they could be found, located and shipped across. But the one that didn't turn up, as I've just said, is the Sam 2 tooling. It just didn't show up. There were various theories as to what happened to it. One outlandish theory is that the van taking it was involved in a motorist accident, car accident, on the other side of the channel, and it was damaged in that car accident. Very difficult to imagine how it could be damaged. It must be some crash, because the toolings are very heavy, made of very, very solid steel. And the idea one of these could actually be damaged, well, that must have been a very catastrophic accident indeed. The other theory is that simply it was basically stolen, fallen off the back of a lorry, and those toolings, because they're very heavy metal, they have a considerable scrap value. And maybe not everyone in Britain or France loves models like we do. And if it fell into the wrong hands of someone who's not at all as appreciative of their value and scarcity as we are, probably thought, oh look, there's some scrap metal here, we'll sell it off, get it melted down, and we'll have a few £100 and a good supper and a bottle of wine on the proceeds. And there disappeared. Possibly, it's only a theory of course, seems quite likely to me, possibly it was simply melted down and it's disappeared and gone forever. Well, that's the background history of it. I suggest those of you who've got models of it, you might want to message me and put some comments as to your own research and theories as to what happened to the Sam II. Because of that, it's a very, very rare and very special kit. And if you've got an example of it in your stash, well, look after it very well, because it's probably one of the most valuable items you will have in your stash, simply because of the rarity and scarcity that I have just mentioned. Anyhow, I think really that's enough for today. This is just an opening, as I say, pilot video, just to give you a flavour of what we're going to be discussing and the kind of things we can talk about. Obviously, there's a limitless amount of subject material we can look at, and there's lots of things we can view, discuss. If you like, box opening reviews, looking at the kits, the toolings, and I said the subject matter, and also perhaps reviewing other manufacturers offering at around the same time. It's of course very unfair to compare kits from 50 years ago, and that is of course over 50 years ago now, to modern day offerings, because technology has moved on so very much in the world of model kit manufacture. But this one, the Sam II, really does bear up to comparison to modern day examples, in my view. You might have a different view on it. You might say, well, it's a bit average, but let's see. Anyhow, many thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to catching you again soon, and hopefully before that I'll hear from you. Bye bye for now.